The F1 season comes back to Bahrain for its third and final sprint race round of 2022. With points available to all the drivers and a short dash from lights to flag, the sprint race format has become a quick paddock favorite to mix up the championship. Coming into the weekend, Renault bosses were very confident that further updates to their car would see their boys in blue match their early season form, and with Ocon and Aitken both setting very competitive times throughout Friday, they might just do that. But all eyes were on the Ferrari man Aarava, who after suffering a huge setback in his championship fight last race, needs to come out swinging this weekend. Arriva Bene has called out the FIA for not doing anything to punish Aitken following the collision last race, but has said Ferrari will continue to simply focus on its challenges ahead, with both prancing horses needing strong points. Red Bull have equally been put on the back foot with an average weekend in Sao Paulo. Pierre Gasly, however, felt his team should still feel good with their current performance and take confidence that Audi shouldn't be particularly strong for the remainder of the season, with Bahrain being the only power track left to race at. We have 3 rounds left in this season and 3 drivers still fighting flat out for every point in this championship. So as we head into the Bahrain sprint race, you can bet nothing is going to be left on the table today, where every position right down to last place can change the championship. Let's see how the drivers will line up for the Bahrain Grand Prix and final sprint race of the 2022 season, and it's a return to pole for Renault and Ocon, as the Frenchman was one of only 2 drivers to dip into the 55s, the other of course being Max Verstappen, who continues his recent habit of starting from the front row. The other Renault of Jack Aitken will enjoy the familiarity of his teammates' gearbox as they wait for the lights to go out. He's joined by the leading Red Bull of Giovinazzi. Row 3 is all Ferraris, but the other way around this time, with Aarava and Leclerc setting identical times, but the Brit did it earlier in the session, so he'll start from P5. Brazilian Grand Prix winner Carlos Sainz will start from the 4th row alongside Pierre Gasly, quite a bit further back than he's accustomed to this season. And rounding out the top 10, it's the fastest Big Cat, with Stoffel Vandoorne not only making it into Q3, but also getting the better of the second Mercedes of Mick Schumacher. It's not until row 6 that we see our first BMW, and it's Perez leading the charge this week. He's joined by Sebastian Vettel, who was vocally disappointed about being 3/10 slower than Sainz on Saturday. The leading McLaren for this race will again be Lando Norris, but for once he doesn't have his teammate alongside him. Nico Hülkenberg not only got into Q2, but he was also fast enough to displace the other McLaren of Ricciardo down to the 8th row and alongside a disappointed Valtteri Bottas, both drivers about 8/10 off the pole time. And at the back, it's the usual suspects, with Nico Kari an alarming 8 positions behind his teammate and only narrowly quicker than the Alpha of Ilott. And on the final row, it's Wehrlein and Fuoco, the only 2 drivers that were more than a second slower than Ocon in qualifying.
Hey, what's going on, guys? aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 MyDriver career mode, episode number 12 today for Season 8 here at the Bahrain Sprint Race. If you guys did miss the previous episode, episode number 11 at the Brazilian Grand Prix, be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, because as was mentioned in the practice portion of this video there, everything has changed coming into this one. Myself and Pierre Gasly are on the back foot. Carlos Sainz has taken a commanding lead in the Drivers' Championship, as can be seen in the bottom right there, and so it's all to play for in the final sprint round of the season. You guys have really loved the addition of the sprint rounds. Of course, points for all 20 drivers today, from 20 points for the winner down to 1 point for last place here, and a shortened version of a layout we already have come to. Obviously, this was the season opener, so very intriguing to see how the cars will perform around the shortened layout of Bahrain. And like was mentioned in the practice portion, we as a team, myself and Ferrari as well, we need to really try and bounce back even bigger than was already necessary after that collision I had with Jack Aitken last time out, which really dampened my what would have been a good points haul, I feel, at the Brazilian Grand Prix. But you guys know me, and I'm never going to give up in a fight here in MyDriver, and anything can truly happen in this series. Before the Brazilian Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly was the one in the lead of the championship, and Carlos Sainz was down in P3 with a fair few points off the lead, and after that race, he's now in a very very commanding lead of the championship. So let's see what can happen tonight here around the Sakir circuit here at Bahrain for the sprint round race. Here we go to 5 red lights then for round number 12 of the 2022 season. 5 red lights are out and we're underway from P5 on the grid. It's a great getaway compared to Antonio Giovinazzi. The lead Red Bull did much better than his teammate in qualifying. It's 3-4 wide almost between the two Renaults, and Max Verstappen makes some contact there with the Italian Gio. We're on the outside. There's so many cars on my inside there that I'm almost hesitant to turn in as we now take the shortcut onto the main back straight now of the Bahrain sprint circuit here. Now at the moment it's a commanding lead for Esteban Ocon, followed by Antonio Giovinazzi, who's managed to find his way into P2. Max Verstappen P3. We're going to send it down the inside of both cars. A little bit of contact's made, and you can see how desperate I am to try and get into a bit of clean air to try and chase after Ocon, because he's absolutely bolted there. He's not even in the camera shot at the moment, so Ocon with a very commanding lead, and I'm still scrapping away for P2. We haven't managed to get Verstappen though for P3. Behind him then is our championship rivals Gasly and then Carlos Sainz, with my teammate with a bit of a slow start there. We tried to make a move down the inside of Giovinazzi. It's not worked out though, and Verstappen has now had a mighty run on the last corner, and we're now neck and neck with the Dutchman and Gasly. Look at that, close behind as well as Carlos Sainz. Sainz and Gasly side by side. They lined up side by side on the grids, and they're still at it as we go into turn 1 of lap number 2, and we're going to have to squeeze out Verstappen quite a bit there, quite harsh on the Dutchman, but I need to make that pass stick, because now I need to try and desperately chase after Giovinazzi and then Esteban Ocon. Take some solace in that earlier pace. Gasly appears to be still ahead of Carlos Sainz, so the Audi's not turning up as much as the paddock thought they would, as we now move into the end of lap number 2. Onto lap 3, we'll have DRS available, I think, at the end of this lap. We won't need it though. Slipstream there, and we've overtaken Gio purely with the engine power of the Ferrari. Of course, we talked about that. It's not been always the case. I've had the luxury of engine power in my driver, but this Ferrari has been working absolutely supremely ever since that Monaco upgrade, and we need to just utilize it to good effect, like we haven't done so in the last couple of rounds really. And so now we'll go chasing after the Frenchman Ocon, who is in a very, very commanding lead. But now we look at a replay. At the same time I was overtaking Giovinazzi, this was Pierre Gasly now making a move on Max Verstappen. So that's at least good news for me in terms of if at least Sainz can be pushed down the order, then that's better for me. But of course, also at the same time, I almost want Gasly not to do as well. So it's kind of a bit of a kind of balancing act really. The ideal scenario would be that Renault of Jack Aiken and my teammate Leclerc goes and overtakes both Sainz and Gasly here, and Verstappen remains where he is. But I don't think that's going to be the case, because now as we move back to the live racing action, you can see there we're just ahead of Gio, but Gasly is still right up the gearbox of Verstappen. He's looking pretty damn likely to maybe make a pass. He's looking pretty hungry there. He's actually getting away from Carlos Sainz, who's just about hanging on to the head of Jack Aiken in that Renault. And here goes Gasly then, down the inside of last corner, toe-to-toe, and Gasly, nice, smooth squeeze out there. That is for him. But will Verstappen come back at him? Let's see. Yes, he will. It's nearly 3 wide. Will Sainz have the speed to make a move down the inside of both of them? I wonder. It looks like Verstappen has the straight line speed sorted out into turn 1. It's then Sainz and Gasly yet again at it, and Sainz now has the advantage. He's ahead by just a whisker, but Gasly comes back, cuts the corner a tad into the next right-hander then as we enter the shortcut section, and Sainz just about there, but then Gasly has the traction crucially on the Audi, and he remains ahead just about. DRS open there for the Red Bull car. He's still having to defend from Sainz, and he does manage to do it. So 2 championship rivals going head-to-head on track. You love to see it there, but the Frenchman does remain ahead of the Spaniard, and that's good news for me, because we are now here chasing after Esteban Ocon. You can see he's still got a sizable lead on me, but crucially, if I look back behind me, I'm getting an equal lead on Giovinazzi, so I'm not feeling threatened from P3. It's all just blinkers on, and looking ahead to P1. Meanwhile, Gasly now trying to look ahead, similarly enough, on Verstappen for the second time now in this Grand Prix, this time on the outside of the last corner, and this might finally be the run he needs on the left-hand side of this circuit there. But Verstappen is still there to drag race again between the Red Bull and Mercedes car, and this time I think the Red Bull Chevrolet car has the legs on the monster Mercedes. Round the outside, Gasly would go, tiny bit of tyre contact there, but Gasly will have that as they enter the next right-hander, and he can try and now get away and chase after his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi. But look at that train that's formed behind him. So much hard scrapping there, and all these guys getting held up. A big train. Gasly, Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, Jack Aitken, Leclerc, and then you've got the other Mercedes car of Mick Schumacher, and then Sebastian Vettel on the tail end of that train. A lot of big names there in that train, and now Sainz might have a look down the inside of Verstappen, but will Verstappen have the speed to keep ahead? I'm not too sure. That Audi should theoretically have the power to get past. Let's see. No, actually Sainz has been overtaken by the Renault, Jack Aitken. The Renault have upgrades as of late, and Aitken's passed now. Of course, his teammate's the one leading the race in a dominating fashion, and now Aitken might have a go at Max Verstappen. And so that's supreme news for not only me, but also Gasly, who is also needing to score quite big here against Carlos Sainz to try and take the fight back to the Spaniard in the championship. And now here goes Aitken round the outside, making up for the poor getaway he had on lap 1. Remember, he was right up there, side by side for the lead into turn 1 of lap 1, and he's gone all the way back. So he's trying to come back in this race, and he's trying to do so, but now the Audi will come back past, and he's used the opportunity, caught him napping somewhat, and that's the kind of the difference between a one-time world champion in Carlos Sainz and then Jack Aitken, a fairly newcomer to F1. His only second season in this sport, and Sainz is back past now, can maybe try to have a look at Verstappen, but all those big scraps are going to help out the likes of myself and Gasly, because, you know, they're losing time hand over fist. Although, to be fair, the tyre wear is now kicking in on lap 11, although we have caught up a fair bit to Ocon. You can see he's so much visually closer to us on track now than ever before, and he's going to come in, and we're going to join him now. We're going to cover him off, because I feel like I need to just be chasing the back end of him, and I need to actually have him there on track as a bit of a yardstick and target measure to really keep pushing on, because, I don't know, I generally just don't do as well when I'm just driving to a delta time. I kind of need that car ahead of me to visually see him closing up, you know, almost like a hunter and its prey in a way. So Ocon's onto a set of soft tyres, I think that was, or mediums actually, and we're onto a set of soft tyres, but he's on mediums, which is quite peculiar actually, because I wouldn't think the medium tyre is the race tyre of choice. It certainly wasn't back when we first came here to Bahrain for the opening round of the season. And of course, remember, I did a stunning job, if I do say so myself, to take the soft tyres quite a fair bit in the season opener. So we'll see how this works out for us. I think the option would be a 2-stop for everyone this afternoon, but I guess maybe it's personal preference between the medium and soft tyres. We get past the Jaguar of Nico Kari with ease. And yeah, of course, remember, there are specific sprint race tyres for these sprint race rounds that Pirelli designed that have much more tyre wear in them. So perhaps the soft and the mediums are quite equalised in that kind of way. Maybe just personal preference on if you want to lean on the tyre a little bit more. But I'm feeling a lot more comfortable on the soft tyre, I feel. And you can see into turn 1 there, supremely confident under the brakes. And we are definitely catching up to Esteban Ocon here. And hopefully we can make a move for the lead, and that will be quite a nice place to be. And then it's really just down to fate and what happens to everyone else. Meanwhile, we've got Gasly now fighting the BMW car. The BMW on those soft tyres since the beginning of the Grand Prix, those softs. But Gasly on mediums, he's gone out, so he's matched Ocon for that strategy. But he's going to try and feed his way around the outside, a little bit off circuit there. And trying to find the room to make the pass on the BMW car, and he has done so. So nice overtake on the outside there for Gasly, and getting a move on those mediums. And so now here we go, back to our fight, and we are now closing up on Ocon. We will have the DRS on this pit straight. So here we go then, rear flap opening, and we're going to gain and gain. Can we make enough gain to make a move down the inside? We'll pull to the inside, of the right-hand side, down the inside of turn 1, on lap 14. We've locked up on the front right, gone a little bit deep. Ocon's still there on the left, coming up to the very awkward shortcut right-hander, and Ocon still trying around the outside, but we do get that on the apex, and he'll have to tuck in back behind, but he's going to get a good run here potentially. We're going to move off the racing line, try and break the toe, but he's got DRS there. You can see just pokes a nose in, but we do keep P1 for now as we go very slow in the apex to make sure we can hold that up the hill. And so on lap 14, we're in the lead of this Bahrain sprint race. So 20 points that will be to me if we can hold it here. But at the moment now, it's a case of trying to control the lead and making sure we're in a good position for later on in the race, because I'm not sure really how the mediums are going to perform against the softs. At the moment, Ocon's looking pretty damn handy, and in that Renault, obviously with upgrades, is looking pretty good in a straight line. He's got the DRS, he's got the momentum, he's flown past me on the inside. We're going to keep it deep and cut in for a switchback move, and that is absolutely stunning work there. And we've just about made that. Literally a pixel was probably between my front nose and his gearbox there, and it's a nice little switch to get back in the lead. But a great scrap between myself and Ocon. But if we keep fighting like this, I'm a little bit wary that maybe the Red Bull cars might close up. You can see Ocon has another little look, just, you know, pokes his nose in there to make sure that I know that he's there, and I definitely do. And we're going to have to keep wary here. But if we do keep fighting like this, I wonder if Giovinazzi and Gasly are going to close up quite rapidly here. So we move on to lap 16, and again, that Renault pulls so fast alongside us there. Those upgrades have really worked quite a treat for the Renault guys to bring them back into the top fight here this tonight, as we're now on the outside again. We're on the inside though for that shortcut right-hander, and this time, sorry Ocon, going to be very, very harsh to you, mate, and we're going to squeeze him right off circuit there, because I want this a lot more than he does, and we're going to have DRS there. He's going to pull on the outside, but we'll have the inside line. But you can see there, off in the distance, was a Red Bull car of Giovinazzi in third place, also on medium, so all the cars behind me are on medium tyres, but it doesn't take too long, and there is Giovinazzi now. He is officially part of this fight now, so we're all covered by less than a couple of tenths, and Gasly is not too far behind, so this is a little bit frustrating for me, but Ocon now locks up. The pressure's maybe got to him a little bit, and now Giovinazzi round on the outside, down the inside for the next right-hander. Ocon off circuit there, but the Frenchman is going to keep it ahead, actually gets the elbows out a little bit, and Giovinazzi's literally pushed a little bit on the exit of that corner and gets a bit of a tank slapper, but he remains in P3, but yeah, a little bit frustrating there to see how fast the Red Bulls close back up to us. Meanwhile, though, I can take some at least some good notes in that Carlos Sainz is nowhere near any of that fight. He's actually defending from Jack Aiken at the moment, and you can see close behind is also the Monza Mercedes car, I think, of Mick Schumacher there, so he's doing a really good job. And further back behind them is Charles Leclerc ahead of Sebastian Vettel, and then Sergio Perez in the BMW Motorsport Williams car. And then you've got the Haas, you've got the Jaguar, just looking down the order really. And now also we get to a crucial look at where Max Verstappen is, and he's had major issues in this Grand Prix. Remember, he was fighting and was ahead of Carlos Sainz, but you can see there clearly damage on the front right, and he's made an extra pit stop, and so that's a calamity for the German team and the Dutchman there. From what was a good point scrap for them, good point haul, he's now down just ahead of that train of Alfa Romeo, McLaren and Haas. So unfortunate for Verstappen there, as we now move back to our fight now. Look at this, the top four all within 1 second of one another, and we've only got 8 laps left in this Grand Prix. This is about to be a titanic scrap. Look at this, it's going to be 3, maybe 4 wide. Giovinazzi on the left, Ocon on the right, and Gasly also joins the party. We're 3 wide with Gasly and Ocon there, the two Frenchmen. We dive it down the inside of Ocon, switch it to the inside because we were on the inside of that fight, and now Gasly trying to attack his fellow countryman. We're going to send it down the inside of Ocon and run him wide once again. But Giovinazzi, look at that, like an absolute ninja, he's waltzed through and he's gained a commanding lead now of this race, as Gasly now overtakes Ocon on the inside with DRS, and we're in P2 now, having to chase after, well, it's not Ocon, but having to chase after another car this tonight, and it's Giovinazzi this time round. But so far at the moment, still ahead of Pierre Gasly and way ahead of Carlos Sainz. That's going to be good for our championship. But for the constructors, you've got to say Red Bull are looking way, way stronger than Ferrari are at the moment, with my teammate Leclerc nowhere to be seen. He's fighting down the order with Sebastian Vettel, so that's going to be the only frustration at the moment for me. If we can get this win, it will just be the fact that the Ferrari is a team we're not going to be scoring well here, because Red Bull, even if they get 2-3, are still going to be walking away with so many points in the championship. But now on lap 25, you can see we did close up to Giovinazzi into turn 1 there. Lap 25, couldn't quite make it, but you can see also behind me, Gasly's not too far behind. But now, here we go on the very next lap 26, DRS. Down the inside we go over the Italian for the race lead. But at the moment, if you look behind us, I think Pierre Gasly has come to the pits for an early pit stop there from medium tyres. It's now going to be Aiken, the one in third place. So I think Ocon and Gasly have both come in earlier than myself and Giovinazzi, so both of us kind of tangling between each other and forgetting about the pit stop for now. And I'm just not too sure we're going to set the super soft tyres there, but I just don't know how to call this now. With only a couple of laps left of this Grand Prix, Giovinazzi's got back into the lead, but we're just right up his gearbox. And to be fair, to be honest, I just want to stick here for now because I want to see what he does. We're going to send it down the inside to see if we can make anything work there. But ideally, I just want to cover him off and see what he does. We're going to pull on the left-hand side. He'll take the inside line to defend there on the apex. But now, what is going to happen here? Are we going to come in or not? With only 3 laps to go, 2 laps to go will be. I think for now, we will stay out, and we're going to stay out with Giovinazzi. Open the DRS. He's pushed us a little bit to the right-hand side. We'll do a bit of a shimmy and shake, fake to the right, make him think we're going to the inside. We're going to go to the outside instead, and we'll be on the inside for then the next left-hander right there. And there we go, back into the lead of the Grand Prix. But Gio takes a wider line than I do and switches in a lot faster and tighter than I, and you can see the traction he's got, and look at that, he's flown by, and he's just got a much better racing line there. All afternoon I struggled with that racing line in that shortcut section, and Giovinazzi's back into the lead. So the race lead is literally swapped about 5 different times, in the last couple of laps here. But now, lap 27 with 2 laps to go. Am I or Giovinazzi going to pull the trigger? That is the question, really, because Gasly's pit, Ocon's pit, Sainz's pit. Which one of us is going to pull the trigger here? It's either going to be me or him that pulls the trigger to come in for this pit stop. Both with really worn tyres, and it's going to be Gio. Gio pulls the trigger. We're going to come in and cover him off here, and we're in for a late pit stop onto super soft tyres. May seem a little bit silly, but the fact is the tyre wear is so high here on these sprint mode tyres that it's just not feasible to go on to the end. It'll be too dangerous for a puncher here. So we're going to come in for super soft tyres there and try and match Giovinazzi. Obviously get held up a tad as Gio has to come down the pit lane, and so it's going to be me and him down the order. You can see also the Audi, I think, of Vettel is in as well. But as we come down the pit lane then, where is Pierre Gasly? Pit a lot earlier than us, and I think that might just be him coming through on the main racing line. On the outside of Giovinazzi, the 2 Red Bulls will be side by side. We've come out behind Ocon, and so the undercar has worked so well, and so we probably should have come even earlier than Giovinazzi and not try to cover him off, because now it's Gasly in the lead of the Grand Prix, I believe, with Giovinazzi second. Ocon there is there ahead in 4th place, and we're down in P5 as Ocon tries to overtake a Jaguar car that's remained out on its set of tyres. We now go around the outside of Ocon, desperately trying to make the moves here with the fresh tyres, and I'm going to kick this engine up into qualifying mode gear and just go for it, send it down the inside of Nico Kari. And so we've got now 1 lap left to turn up the wick to the max of this car and try and see what we can do here. 1 lap to go. We're P3. Giovinazzi chasing down Gasly for P1, but I'm not liking the look at this at the moment, because I also think Carlos Sainz was not too far off the tail end there in P6 perhaps. So it was looking so good for most of this sprint race, but now in the dying embers of this Grand Prix sprint race, it's just turned completely on its head, and Gasly has now found himself in the lead ahead of his teammate, and it's looking pretty damn good for a 1-2 for Red Bull. I mean, Gio will try and maybe overtake his teammate, but in the end of it, it's looking like a pretty damn good strong night for Red Bull as a team here. And like I mentioned, Ferrari, we need to also do well for the constructors, and Leclerc is nowhere near us in the podium, let alone in the top 5 there. And Gasly looks like he's not even being hounded by his teammate. We can see, look how much I've gained on them in 1 lap there. The full wick Ferrari power is really turning out. Look at that. 1 more lap, and I feel like I would have had both Red Bulls here, and I would have got back into the lead. But obviously there's not 1 more lap. This is the last lap of the sprint race, and it is going to be, unfortunately for me, Pierre Gasly to take his 4th win of the season, his 2nd sprint race win of the season there, and he wins the Bahrain sprint ahead of Giovinazzi. It's a 1-2 for Red Bull Racing Chevrolet, and we're there in 3rd place for Ferrari, and P4 is going to be Carlos Sainz. Sainz actually got P4 right to the death, but there is the man with his 10th win of his F1 career in the MyDriver universe here. But that is still not going to be enough potentially for the championship lead, but there you go. Carlos Sainz does take P4, and the dying embers of that last lap, Sainz seemingly overtook Ocon there, and Leclerc down in P8. That's not going to be good for us in the constructors. This might be a little bit painful and a little bit unnerving, really, because now, here we go. Championship standings. Carlos Sainz still in a commanding lead with 165 points. 5 points ahead of Pierre Gasly, who now closes up a little bit, but we're still in P3. Now 154 back from Gasly. We are 6 points away from Pierre Gasly in 2nd place, and then we're a further 5 to make it an 11-point gap we would have to close up in the last two remaining rounds to Carlos Sainz. It's looking like the entire thing is against us at the moment. We have got our backs against the wall here, guys, if we want to try and win this championship, but we'll plow on. In the constructors then, Red Bull with that 1-2 take the lead back in the Constructor Championship. It's been back and forth between Audi and Red Bull, and this time Red Bull take the lead, 6 points ahead of Audi. We can see Ferrari now quite some way behind Audi, so we're gonna need a miracle and maybe more if we want to try and take that lead back in the Constructors. But at least there's some good news for some other teams. Jaguar finally are not last place in the Constructors there. They do overtake Alfa Romeo with the results they got today, but that has been quite a crucial sprint race round, because that set up what is going to be a very difficult task now in the last two remaining full GPs to try and overturn this lead that we have not got. But guys, if you have enjoyed the episode nonetheless, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. And guys, let me know in the comments below, do you think we can do this? 2 rounds to go, an 11-point gap. I think a 15-point gap that was for Ferrari to overturn. Do you think we can do it? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new around here, do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.